Welcome to day 5 of the 5 days to epic pleasure and passion for high achieving women training. Oh my goodness, we've made it to the very last day. Before we dive into the content for today, I want to remind you, if you have not already, to get your application call in for the next round of the Multiorgasmic Bliss group coaching program that is starting the week of January 29th, 2024. So you can do that at the link in the show notes down below. The call is just for us to hop on, see if we're a good fit for each other, make sure this is the right program for you. I'll answer any of your questions you have about the program, and if it's not a good fit, I'll direct you where I think you would best be served. So get that call booked in before the deadline, which is January 26th, this upcoming Friday. All right, what I want to do in today's episode is unlock your full pleasure and passion potential. That's why you came here. And when I talk about unlocking your potential, what I mean is that I want to help you get out of your own way. The truth is, so many of us have limiting beliefs. We have stories that we tell ourselves. We have stories about our bodies. We have stories about our partners that are keeping us from experiencing the exquisite pleasure and the passionate relationship that is available to you right now, if you can just get out of your own way. My goal today is to help you get past that, because if you've been listening to this training, you probably know that by now that you had no idea what you didn't know. And you had no idea how much more there is to learn and how much more there is to grow. My goal is to help you to take the next step. I want you to be able to implement and take action on this, on what you have learned in these 5 days, so you can increase your pleasure potential and your potential for a passionate relationship again. I want you to understand something very important though. The only limitation that you have to creating the pleasure and the passion that you want is you. That's right. Ladies, the only thing stopping you from experiencing epic pleasure and wild passion is you. I'm going to take you through a training today that's going to help you to get out of your own way, no matter what your goals and desires are for your sex life and relationship. For some people, this isn't about experiencing more pleasure, because maybe your sex life is already great, but it's about being more emotionally vulnerable, showing up in your relationship in 100% authenticity, being yourself. It's about no longer hiding or wearing a mask in your relationship. For others of you, though, it may be more about having a better sex life, having more desire for sex in the first place. Or it might be more about getting your needs met because you feel that your partner isn't meeting you in the way that you want sexually. Whatever your goal is, my goal is to take you through this training and unlock whatever it is that's keeping you from taking the next step, which is either number 1, utilizing the free resources that I've given to you, or number 2, or I would say, and number 2, booking the call. If you've already booked the call and you've started on the practices, amazing job. But there's others of you out there who haven't started the practices and you haven't booked the call due to fear or worry or lack of time, energy, lots of excuses that you're making for yourself about why you can't do this right now. Without further ado, let's get into it. The only limitation for you having everything you want in your sex life and your relationship is you. If you haven't started the morning pleasure ritual, if you haven't started the jade egg practices yet, if you have not booked the call, my guess is that you're experiencing one of the following 5 stalls. These are all ways that you are getting in your own way. The first one, and I can't do anything about this one, is that you realize that we probably aren't going to vibe, and I am not the mentor for you. You don't like me very much. That's totally cool. I'm not here for everyone to like me, and I am not for everyone. So thank you for listening. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this. Number 2, you feel unready to take the next action due to fear or resistance. I'd say that's the biggest stall with most of you who haven't gotten started on the practices and booked the call. Number 3, you want more information and clarity about what I've shared, and you aren't sure about it all yet. You're still processing. This is a freeze nervous system response, by the way, so is the not taking action due to fear and resistance. Number 4, you are all in for going down this rabbit hole, but you have no idea how to get your partner on board with any of what I've shared here, and you feel like you want or need their support. and you need them to come along on this journey with you. Spoiler alert, you don't. And I'm going to tell you why in a moment. And then the fifth stall that you're likely experiencing is that you truly believe that you don't have the time, the money, or the energy to do anything about this in your life right now. We're going to go through each of these 5 stalls or hangups that are keeping you from getting out of your own way, ladies. The first one is that you don't vibe with anything that I've shared here. I'm totally crazy. I'm a weirdo. This is too unconventional for you. No worries. I do hope that you got something out of this training, but I don't want to waste your time either. The second is that you are processing a lot. You're experiencing massive fear and resistance to utilizing any of the free resources available to you. All right, look, it takes a lot of courage and heart to venture out of the norm and to do something less conventional, to do something that isn't the standard couples counseling or sex therapy. I get how some of the practices that I have given you can stop you dead in your tracks due to fear and resistance. But here is how to deal with that fear and resistance, ladies. You've got to get out of your own way and overcome this, okay? The first thing to do is to be aware of how the fear and resistance is simply your deep unconscious mind's way of ensuring that you never get what you want. Why would your unconscious mind do this? Because it takes trying something new and different to get a different result. And your unconscious mind will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. Your unconscious mind's job is to ensure that you stay right where you're at, experiencing the same amount of pleasure you've always experiencing the same amount of passion and intimacy that you've always experienced, because it knows that it's safe and you're going to survive. Remember, the only job of your unconscious mind is to ensure you're safe, to ensure that you get loved, and to ensure that you belong. We all have a nervous system set point on what our body feels is okay to experience in terms of pleasure and connection. So it's going to choose the familiar hell over the unfamiliar heaven every single time. Even though it may feel like you're living in hell right now, your nervous system is familiar with it. And it knows that you can survive it. So it throws up the wall of fear and resistance to ensure you survive and you stay right where you're at. But ladies, you are not here simply to settle and to survive. You're here to thrive. And the only way to thrive in your sex life and relationship is to actively choose to take the steps that get you to the unfamiliar heaven. And the first step to get past fear and resistance is to recognize what it's trying to do. Thank it. Let it know that you're not willing to stay where you are any longer. The second step is to simply press play on the audios. Go to the morning pleasure ritual, press play. You give it 1 minute. You go to the Jade Egg audios. You buy the Jade Egg. You do the Soulful Intimacy audios. Simply press play. Simply book the call. I promise you, I don't bite. By pressing play on the audios, you're going to give yourself 1 full minute of listening to the audio before making a determination about continuing or not. If it helps, simply listen to my instructions without following along first. I have many clients that do this before they can even get themselves to do the action that I'm telling them to do in the audio, because they need to know what is happening. This is a protective mechanism, and sometimes just listening to the audio is going to help you to familiarize yourself with the practice before you get yourself to actually do it. Then you can follow along and take the action the second time that you listen to it. If you never press play on the audio, if you never book the call, you will very, 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 very likely never make progress in the direction of your desires, and you're going to be right where you're at this same time next year. It's really that simple. If you don't do it, if you don't take the action, nothing is going to change. If you do it, something might change. And while I understand that change can be terrifying, just remember that your nervous system is doing what it needs to do to keep you in survival mode, but it's not in support of your thriving. Your nervous system, it does not like change. But if you want things to be different for you, you have to consciously choose thriving. And the way that you choose it is by taking the action, pressing play, and booking the call. Taking the action is the only way to overcome fear and resistance. It's like jumping off a cliff. If you don't jump off the cliff, you never overcome the fear and resistance to doing it. All right, now that we've covered fear and resistance and being in the forever processing mode, what I'm saying, but never taking any action, let's move on to stall number 3 that has you standing in your own way. Number 3 is that you want more information and clarity about what I've shared and you aren't sure about it all yet. Ladies, if this is you, listen up. Have you ever heard of analysis paralysis? That is exactly what is going on right now. A lot of times when we're looking to make a big change in our life, our protectors come up in order to keep us in that same spot. This can look like the fear and resistance that we just discussed, but for many of you high-achieving women, it can also look like needing to obtain all the information and overanalyze everything before you ever take a real action. It is a really sneaky way that your nervous system keeps you in the same spot that you're in a way less obvious way than the fear and resistance, by just paralyzing you and crippling your growth to meet your goals and your desires by you thinking that you need more information and to analyze everything. I get this because as a high achieving woman myself, I want to know all of my options before I make a decision about anything. I want to know everything about everything before taking the next action. This is my overanalyzer. To get past this, I want you to take a moment right now. I want you to ask your overanalyzer, what does it want or need from you right now? Go ahead. Place a hand on your heart and a hand on your lower belly. What do you want and need from me right now? And just noticing that inner voice inside. Maybe it just wants to be seen. Maybe it just wants to be heard. And ask this overanalyzer, what are you protecting me from? And just noticing that the answer is usually something around, I just want to make sure that you don't get let down. Something along those lines. So whatever the answer was, I want you to just notice the clarity around what's going on inside of you. And notice how this overanalyzer, 99.9% of the time, isn't the part of you that's going to help you get what you want. It's going to keep you in analysis paralysis and never change anything. So who can you empower instead to move beyond your current limiting experience of pleasure and connection? What part of you could do that? Would that part press play on the audios? Would that part have the courage to book the call? If I had to guess, I'd say it likely does, because that's the part of you that you want to empower in moments like these to get past analysis paralysis. I truly feel for you because this is the big one that I experience in my own life. But I promise you, overanalyzing, needing more information, needing to take all of the time in the world before you take the action isn't going to help you get what you want any sooner. All right, now let's discuss stall number 4, which is getting your partner on board. You're like, yeah, Tilly, I love everything that you shared, but my partner would never do any of this with me. Here's the great news, ladies. You don't need your partner to do any of this with you. Sure, I get that you want your partner to support you and to be on board, but if you are stalling moving forward with doing any of these practices or booking that free call, just know that you do not need your partner to go on this journey with you at all in order to change the trajectory of your sex life and relationship. I know that probably sounds crazy to you and maybe also a little unfair because you're like, oh great, just another thing that's all on me. Oh, how many times I've heard that one. Why is it that's always my responsibility to take the next action or to move us forward in our relationship? But look, you are the one here. You are the one listening to this audio training. You've got to understand that you are the one who wants the change. So listening to this training, you're the one who feels that there is a problem in your sex life and relationship. Do you know how many women I've talked to whose partners don't see that they even have a problem? They don't even feel there's anything wrong with their relationship. But if you're not happy, you're here for a reason, because you want to be happy. This has nothing to do with your partner. It only takes one person in the relationship to change the trajectory of the relationship. 90% of the work that I do is only with a woman. Very rarely do I pull in a partner into coaching calls or do any couples coaching. And here's why. Since you now know that the issues in your relationship and sex life are not your partner's fault, and that the issues stem from your unconscious blocks, your negative programming, and your negative mindset. This is actually a you thing that only you need to deal with. And when you deal with it, it naturally changes the relationship dynamic. Your partner starts to show up differently because you start to show up differently. Now, I know you likely have a lot of questions or objections to this, but trust me when I tell you that I have been doing this full time since 2017, and I have never once needed a woman's partner to participate in my work with her in order for her to increase her libido, to reignite the passion and the spark, or to experience more sexual pleasure. Depending on the program that we decide is right for you, if you have a willing partner, we may include your partner in the home play work that I give, but it is never required. Now that you know you actually don't need your partner's support to take the next action, you can go through the morning pleasure ritual, you can do the jade egg practice, and you can book the call for now. And when you take serious action like this, I can almost guarantee that eventually your partner will want to be more involved as he witnesses your transformation, and he will want to do the relationship check-in or the soulful intimacy practices. And if you decide to work with me, he will be way more interested in doing the epic sex date nights that I have you guys do when you have a willing partner. Now, let's talk about stall number 5. You truly believe you don't have the time, money, or energy to do anything about this in your life right now. You might be thinking, well, Tilly, you just don't understand how busy I am. I don't have time for one more thing to do in my life. I have 5 kids, I have a full-time job, I'm starting a business. Well, guess what? I've had clients who've had the same. Okay, you might be thinking, yeah, Tilly, well, I bet working with you is well over my budget and I just don't have the money for that in this economy. Here's the deal. These are just excuses. Working with me doesn't take a lot of time, and I have price points for every budget. I have programs that start at $250 and go way beyond that, and time-wise, even my private clients are only asked to commit 2.5 to 3 hours per week to break through their sex life and relationship challenges. You have the time. You really have no excuses, because working with me doesn't mean that this takes over your life and you'll have to devote all of this time into it and it's going to take over your whole life. No. I've worked with the women who've had 5 kids, run a business, and have a full-time job, and they did it because it was a priority for them. Putting time and money into something is all about what you value. You know, when your car breaks down and you didn't plan to spend a couple grand on it, you find the money to do it anyway, somehow or another, right? Well, if you value getting the support and accountability to break through your relationship challenges bad enough, you'll also find the money to make it happen, because I have programs for all price points. People pay on average $23,000 for a wedding, and about the same for a divorce. So really check yourself and your values here, ladies. Many people spend hours binge watching Netflix shows or whatever, so they really don't have any excuses when I ask them to commit 11 minutes each morning for a morning pleasure ritual to completely change the trajectory of their life. You see, it's just a bunch of excuses. You make time and money for things that you value. If you could conjure an average $23,000 for a wedding or a divorce lawyer retainer fee, you can afford to do the work to keep the relationship that you committed to. All right, now that we've been through the 5 most common stalls when it comes to taking action and getting out of your own way, my last message to you is this. What do you want to do? Do you want to be in the same position this time next year, or do you want to change? If it's the latter, changes are going to require taking the next right action. Now, it's time to give yourself permission to make that change and give yourself permission to take the action, ladies. Regardless of which action it is, I want to encourage you to either one, get those free resources and actually utilize them. You can get them for free at the link in the show notes. And to book the call, it can't hurt to book the call, I promise. So just a reminder that the next round of the Multiorgasmic Bliss group coaching program starts the week of January 29th. And I'm so excited to take you guys on this amazing journey with a group of like-minded women where we're going to have weekly group coaching calls. You're going to get to know everyone there. You're going to feel so supported. You're going to have the accountability to actually do the things that I've given to you as far as your morning pleasure ritual and all of the amazing embodiment practices that you're going to be doing. And you're going to get my guidance and support to do the inner work that's really required to make these shifts and changes. So I hope to see you there. And one way or another, I am so confident that you are going to take the actions, the next right action for you. And I just want to let you know, thank you so much for joining me on this epic 5-day training. I know we've been through a lot. There's been so much new information, so many things you probably learned, and I hope that it serves you. My intention is that this inspires you to take that next action that's right for you. So no more stalling, ladies. Go do it now. See you there.